Hello, Fáilte gach duine go léir. It's time for Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy from Mythical Ireland. This is episode number 49. Dachad is an ní. I want to welcome you all, wherever you are in the world this evening, to our daily live stream. You're all very welcome. Lovely to have you along. This evening, we are talking about the goddess Áine, who has connections particularly with Knockainey or Knockainey in Limerick, and we'll be examining her story a little bit. So, to kick things off, the usual thank yous first. A big shout out to Simon Tute of Monumental Ireland for help with images today in relation to the graphic for episode 49. Also, to thank Alpchem on pixabay.com. So there were two images there. And I have to say a very, very big thank you to our regular watcher, Margaret Ring, who was the one who suggested the topic, Áine, the fairy queen of Munster, and by extension, Áine the goddess. Hope you're all keeping well. We'll get going shortly. First of all, we have to do the usual welcomes. And I see, because I have to prepare the live stream on YouTube in advance, there's a lot of commentary on YouTube already. Erica Bow says, good afternoon from Kibolo, pronounced Cibolo, S-I-H, Cibolo, Texas. Okay, Erica, nice to have you along. Daisy Peters is in Rio de Janeiro. I'm ready, waiting. More one amazing and magical story. Blessings to all. And here we go. Banachty, Daisy, and welcome. Amber Lynn says, hey everyone, how is everyone? Well, I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself, and I'm in fine fettle at the moment. Aria Ivancic Art says, hey from Milan, and ciao Aria, lovely to have you along. Fáilte. Who am I missing? Erica Rivertree says, Banachty o Louisville, Kentucky, Conasatá to Tome Goma. Erica, August Tussa Fane, and Fáilte, it's lovely to see you. Mandy McCurl, Fasker Ma vo Elin Villa. Chan is this Scottish Gaelic? I'm going to butcher this. Chan Fach Hu na Bianton Lesh Achio. Good evening from the Isle of Mull. You can't see the hills for mist. Wow. Yes, it was raining today, and then it was sunny, and now it's getting grey again, and it's to rain tonight again. So there you go. Melissa O'Brien says, hello, Anthony. Gia Gutcha, Melissa. Seasons 136. This is Sarah again. Glad to be back, and we're glad to have you back, Sarah. You're very welcome. And on Facebook, Alex Casterton is the first of the commenters tonight. Evening, Anthony, says Alex. Trononowat, Patricia McAteer is watching from Omeath. Aaron Durrett is watching. Hello, Aaron. Alex Casterton says, evening to Barbara Barney says, hi, Anthony. Giagwich, Aaron Pixie Kusick. Yay, Giagwich, cloudy day from Florida. Well, looks like we're sharing weather today, although you may not have had rain. Heather Garon Rice is saying, hello, watching with Carol. Hello, Carol and Heather. It's lovely to see you both. Helen Guinan is watching, please, everybody. Genuflect. Speaking of, we're going to be talking about the Queen of Munster. Well, the Queen is in the house. Aaron says, love to the Tua and you, Anthony. Don't know much about mine. Looking forward to this. Well, as am I. Jennifer Foley is saying hello to everyone from Michigan. Fáilte gach duine go léir. Michael Naylor is saying cloudy day in New Jersey from Mike and Jeanette, who are in Princeton. Pat Rowan is watching. Giagwich Patrick, or Pat as I like to call you, who is in Washington State. Demi Woe is in Colorado and is saying hello. Rowan Grove is also in Colorado, where she says it's sunny, had to miss yesterday and wanted to be sure to catch today's. That's perfectly okay, Rowan. Life goes on, doesn't it? Sean Fitzgerald, Eg Shul Gomor Lesh Sho. And Sean, I hope you really enjoy yourself. Helen says, was not addressed last evening. Enjoyed all the same. Thank you for taking us all away from COVID-19. Yes, I didn't realize. I apologize. And I expect the P45 at any moment. Nick Eska Casterton is in the house. Hello, Anthony. Hope you and yours are all well and okay. Hi to the best tribe in the world. Well, you're not wrong there. And Trononowat, Nick. Kristen Gray Taggart. Giagwich Anthony August Tua. Cloudy and warm in California. Well, at least it's warm. That's a good start. Welcome along, Kristen. Freya Shohome says Banachty, Anthony, and my beautiful Tua. Banachty. Desiree Riley, good evening, Tua. I'm loving your book, Anthony. You are not only a gifted writer, but your photography is amazing. Thanks a million, Desiree. Very nice of you to say so, and I'm really happy to hear that you're enjoying it. Hopefully it's taking your mind off things. Cheryl Ann McFettridge says, good afternoon and love from Boston, and we always like to see the Bostonians in the house. You're very welcome. Susan Mullen Lacerna, hooray, glad I'm here today from North Carolina, and we are glad you're here too. Jim Conway is in Lurgan, Giaguich. Jim, Federica Guy is saying hello from Italy. Hello, Tua. Pardon me. Ciao, Federica. Doris O'Hara is saying hi, Anthony, and all day off, so I'm happy to be in time today. Brilliant stuff, Doris. Mariana Dunn, greetings, Anthony and our Tua. Sunny here in Alexandria in Virginia. Glad to hear it. Giaguich, Mariana. Juliana De Silva is saying something that I don't understand. Hello, Juliana. Jules Cousins says, good evening. Hello, Jules. Always nice to see you. Charlene McLean Cosby is in North Carolina. Another North Carolinian would love to see Mull. Well, hopefully you'll get the chance before too long. Dawn Hilton says, hi, Anthony. Can't wait for tonight's episode. I looked at Knockainey Hill. Love from Lancashire. Yeah, can you believe I've never been? Much to my shame. Movanway says, hi everyone, I'm pretty tired and bleary-eyed this evening after waking 5 a.m, but couldn't miss an episode on an Otherworld woman. Glad that you're able to prop up the eyelids with matchsticks, Movanway. Mark Ledger, an early morning shower of rain here in tropical North Australia. Cheers all from Townsville. Should I say good day, mate? Well, a good morning to you, Mark, and very nice of you to join us from Australia. Vicky Highland says, hi, Anthony. So excited that this is tonight's subject. I have just been researching the mythology of Lough Gur today and Áine's connection to the lake. Wonderful stuff, Vicky. And I'd say you actually know more than me at this stage. Áine Morris says, hello from Washington State. We have a couple of Washington Staters in the house. Lovely to have you along, Áine. Giaguich. Áine, another Áine. Áine Lyons Smith is saying greetings from Dublin. Always nice to have the Baile Á Clias in the house. And what is the connection between Newgrange and Dublin in mythology? Yes, answers on a postcard. Molly Michelle Kopeski says, Giaguich, Anthony and Tua from a cloudy and cool Minnesota. You're very welcome along, Molly. Alan Bryett, Giaguich, Anthony, just out of work. Now I can relax and enjoy another episode. Thanks for all your work, you amazing man. Well, Alan, I'm only just facilitating an obvious requirement, and it's lovely to have you all and to have such wonderful feedback. Juliana da Silva says, hello and greetings from Brazil. Folcha Juliana, Trononoa. Pat Rowan is saying, good evening to the Tua. Ralph Waldron is in Athleague. The numbers killed in Moitura were huge. Must have been great times for undertakers. Yeah, 100,000 of the Vervolg, wasn't it? Patricia Mazurek says, hi from rainy Leopoldsburg in Belgium again. Patricia, lovely to have you back. Lorna Evers Monaghan saying, hi everyone. Hello, Lorna. Always nice to have you along. Barbara Kling is in Vermont, listening today as I take my walk around the neighbourhood. Cloudy but warm. And that sounds lovely, Barbara. Hopefully we'll keep you company. Nay Della Parma says, obrigado. So somebody is happy. Good, good, good. Maeve Fina Callahan says, Trononoa myth friends. And Trononoa tussa fein, Maeve. Vicky Highland says, hi again, Nick. You just got a preview to my next post. Monumental Ireland is in the house. Looking forward to this evening again. Great work. Not sure if you were tuned in when I gave you a nice plug earlier on. Folks, if you're not already following that page, go to click on Monumental Ireland and go and like that page. It's brilliant. Paul Garron says, good evening, Aaron. And I'm saying good evening to you, Paul. Barb Jordan. Or should I say, good evening again, Paul. Barb Jordan is in Florida saying hello. Giaguich, Barb. Dave Russell, hi Anthony. I love the last Rose of Summer tin whistle tune on your channel. Hauntingly beautiful. Hi everyone from Derry. Yes, this was, as I was saying in, I think it was the Synchronicity episode, or was it? No. No, in fact, it was at the end of... Pat Rowan will remember which episode it was where we spoke at the end about my whistle playing at Newgrange. I can only play slow tunes on the whistle. I'm no good at the fast ones. Simon Tusafar says, greetings from Kinsale. Nice to see you live. Simon, if I'm not mistaken, you are a very talented photographer, and I have shared some of your work on Mythical Ireland. So it's lovely to have you along and to have a fellow photographer of ancient sites in the house. Mark Ledger, good day, Anthony and all mates. Brilliant stuff. Grace Walker saying hello from Long Island in New York. Susan Bain McWilliams says, hi, Anthony, giving you a shout from Illinois. Always nice to have the Illinoisans in the house, and they're not at all annoying. Good, Susan. Paul Garron, hi, evening all. My dad, 80 this July, saved hay in his childhood on Knockainey Hill. Tonight, that has extra focus for me. Brilliant. Henry Paddy Shearman is also in the house. Hello again, Henry. Nice to see you. Laura McCormick from a wet Killinall. Greetings to all. Virtual hugs to all. Looking forward to more storytelling by the fire. Brilliant. Liam Smith is saying good evening, Anthony and Tuov. Trononoa, Fáilte. Melanie Corpy says hello from Georgia in USA. So far away, and yet we're so close together. Grace Walker, good evening from Grey Long Island Paradise Studios, New York. Grace, Fáilte. Natalie Lopez, so happy to have made it on time for another episode. Lovely to have you along, Natalie. John McGovern is watching. Hello, John. Conasata to Makara, Melanie Corpy, far and away. Not to worry, we're always close here. Last part of Deirdre and the Sons of Ishnock, says Maeve Fianna Callan. That is exactly the one. So if you want to go back to the third and final installment of Deirdre and the Sons of Ishnock and watch the last 10 or 15 minutes where I relate that remarkable story about the whistle playing being heard 4,000 miles away, not on the internet. Trononoa from Donegal, says Josephine Meehan. Good to have you along. Gary McCracken is in Drogheda, one of the locals. Gary, lovely to see you. Daniela Semina says greetings from Atlanta. Brilliant stuff, Daniela. Fáilte. Jacqueline Knight is listening from Spain. Thanks for your broadcasts. Mila Boyakis, I am delighted to do them. Todd Despera. Hello, Anthony and everyone. Giagwich, Todd. And back to YouTube. Astro Gypsy says hello from Kevin Anderson in the remote Midwest of the US. And remote is probably a good situation to be in right now, Kevin. So it's nice to have you along. The Curious Celt says, hello, Anthony. Looking forward to this one. Visited Áine's grave back in October. Beautiful location. And Josie Weatherford says, hello. Finally, I get to watch this live. Usually I watch after it is over. Well, it's lovely to have you along. And Ishnock is in the house. Looking forward to this evening again. Thanks for this wonderful time you're sharing with us all. Great stuff, Anthony. Always a great pleasure to have the fifth and unifying province in the house. Absolutely. 12:20. Okay, so let's make that 12:30 by the time I write it down and get started. Yeah. So let us have an introduction to Áine. So tonight, and we're going to introduce Áine because some of you will be asking who she is. Who is this Áine, you know? And why is she called an Otherworld woman? And what is this whole connection with Limerick that us Boyne Vallians are so unfamiliar with? She also has a connection here locally to this area of the country, which we will mention. But maybe some of you know that. Some of the locals here know Áine's connection to the locality in Moorhevna, or more precisely in the modern-day county of Louth. Theresa McGuinness is saying hello again to all from Florida. Germone says, nearly local. Greetings from Dublin. And as I was saying earlier, Ger, what is the connection between Dublin and Newgrange in mythology? How are they connected in mythology? Answers on a postcard. Louise Sherrill says hello again with a big smiley face. Hi, Louise. Giagwich. Barbara Murphy, lovely to have another Omorchu in the house, or Nivorchu. Barbara is in Tucson. Nice to have you along, Barbara. And Margaret Ring is finally joining us a bit late and missed our thanks to her, but let's repeat them. Thank you, Margaret, for your suggestion for this episode theme from a number of weeks ago. Judy McQueen says hello from Oregon. Giagwich, Judy. And am I missing anyone else? No. If you hear a squeaky noise, that is Coda playing with a squeaky toy. Now, just between us, I'm not going to mention it to Saskia, but it's actually Saskia's toy. Good job they're in separate rooms. That's all I can say. Áine. Otherworld. Vicky Wallace-Southall is saying hello, my lovely friends. Hello, Vicky. Nice to have you in the house again. Terry Lynn is in Colorado. Hello, Terry Lynn. Okay. Let's make that 14:30. Otherworld woman in Irish literature and folklore. The name originally meant luster or brightness. In archaic times, this designation, Áine, was used as an epithet for male as well as female deities, and it occurs in place names in different parts of Ireland. I'm not sure if you can hear it. I only mention it because it's distracting for me when he makes noise, but look, he's part of the show now, isn't he? Margaret Ring says, welcome, Anthony. Thank you for including Áine. My pleasure, Margaret. And we'll probably only kind of get to dip into the story. We'll see how we get on. The medieval literature has several mentions of an otherworld lady called Áine. Now, don't forget that whenever we refer to medieval literature, we are referring to the Irish myths that are saved or written down on vellum manuscripts in the great monasteries of Ireland during the Middle Ages. She was, for instance, claimed to have been a daughter of Manannán, and one story told of how a warrior called Étar, Éfada T-A-R, later Éfada A-D-A-R, fell in love with her but died of a broken heart when she rejected him. He was reputedly buried in the place that since bears his name, Ben Étar, or Howth in County Dublin. And I didn't realise there was a fada on the E there, so it would be Ben Étar, wouldn't it? The major emphasis, however, settled on a woman called Áine, who was associated with Munster and particularly with the Oanacht sept. Why am I stopping there? Because, yes, I want to bring up the list of previous episodes is exactly why I'm stopping there. Sorry, I have to... camera's in the way. So just for those of you who are joining us for the first time or who may be not familiar with the series, this is episode 49. We've had 49 continuous episodes since the beginning of the COVID restrictions were announced in Ireland. And you can see all of the previous episodes embedded in one single location on the Mythical Ireland website. And I'm going to paste that in there, that link, as a comment beneath us here. Just also to mention at this point, to say thanks to all of the Mythical Ireland patrons over at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland for your support. And perhaps you might consider becoming one too. And if you don't, that's all right. Her residence was an otherworld palace at Knockainey, the hill of Knockainey, County Limerick. So just to explain, in case you're not aware, Knockainey would be the original Irish name of the place, and it literally means Áine's hill. Knockainey, which is one word, Knockainey, would be simply an anglicised form of that Irish name. So I think I'll do my best to refer to it as Knockainey rather than Knockainey, if you don't mind. Following on from my insistence on calling Newgrange Shean Vrú or Shean Broga, giving it back its old name, which is situated in the centre of the pasture lands of the rich Munster Plain. She was therefore a version of the land goddess, and as such became the patroness of sovereignty for the Oanacht or the Oganacht of that era. And of course the G would be lenited, so it's Oanacht, isn't it? E-O-G-H-A-N-A-C-H-T. This Oanacht connection seems to have been based on the widespread cult of Ailill, A-I-L-I-L-L, and it is clearly expressed in an 8th century text that has Ailill Olam going at Samhain, the November feast, in the evening to attend his horses at Knockainey, and lying down there to sleep. The hill was stripped of its grass during the night, and he was puzzled as to who did that. He travelled to Leinster to a seer poet called Farcus MacCoán. I presume the M would be lenited again, MacCoán or Coán, who advised that they go together to investigate on the following Samhain. When they did so, Ailill fell asleep on the hillside while listening to the cattle grazing, and the king of the Sidhe, called Oval, E-O-G-H-A-B-H-A-L, appeared accompanied by his daughter Áine. She was playing music on a bronze instrument. Faracus slew Oval, and Ailill raped Áine, for which treatment she cursed the assailants. What horrific behaviour. And I just wanted to catch up because I see lots of comments. Yvette always wants to know what book is. This is the great Dahi O'Hogan, The Lore of Ireland. I'm reading the introduction from. Julie-Anne Osborne is watching. Hello, Julie-Anne. Always a great pleasure to see you. Vicky Highlands, I think I've just answered your question. He is such a cute pup. Yes, he is, except for when he's chewing the furniture. Áine Vara Nivoraku. Anne-Marie Murphy is in the house. Áine Mora, it's always a great pleasure to see you. I hope you are keeping safe and well in the current lockdown. And it's a great pleasure to have one of the band three in the house. Of course, all the women on here would claim to be band three, and maybe rightly so. Gillian Gogarty is watching from across the street. Gillian, I'll tell you, I'll open the window there. Here, can you hear me now? Sure, you don't even have to switch on Facebook. You could probably hear me across the way there. My dogs are looking for a squeaky toy, says Desiree Riley. Well, Coda has found the only one in the house, and he's making plenty of noise with it. Áine Brosnan says, just tuned in by chance. Nice to be hearing you speak of Áine. Well, look at that. Áine, what a coincidence. And it's lovely to have you along. Katrina is in the house. Hello, Katrina. Jiagwich, or Shugwich. And she has just posted a link to Amazon to, I presume, where you can purchase your own copy. Now, I see from the Mythical Ireland community on Facebook, and if you're not a member of the community, please feel free to join us, because the difference is on the Mythical Ireland page that you're watching us on currently, you can't post stuff. But on the Mythical Ireland community, you can post stuff. So I'm going to paste that in as a link in case you want to join the Mythical Ireland community. Some of you have been posting pictures of your new arrivals. Some of you have been purchasing the books recommended in recent episodes, and it's lovely to see. So the word is being spread, and people are learning the old stories, which is brilliant. Breege, I don't know how to pronounce your second name, Breege. Please forgive me. Aidnach says, hello from St. Louis in Missouri. Very nice to have you along, Breege. Lovely Irish name. And a similar name, which is Bridget. Bridget Holohan Scally is in New York in the USA. Fáilte, Bridget. You're very, very welcome along this evening. Brilliant stuff. So we have an Áine as well, which is class. The text is hostile towards Ailill, and a later version of the story develops the narrative further by having Ailill slay Áine with his spear in anger at her pulling off his right ear. Bizarre stuff. The origin of the tradition, however, was that Ailill was an Oanacht ancestor figure who was the mate of Áine. She was thus ancestress of the Oanacht, which was a way of stressing the right of that sept to the kingship of Munster. Indeed, the name of the father invented for her, Oval, which means in English, you fork, is a simple derivation from the sept's own name. And that's very interesting, because remember we were saying in one of the recent episodes about this famous fork of white hazel that Elkmar had atop Newgrange in Tuckmark Etain. And we were saying that according to Francis Byrne, Irish Kings and High Kings, which is another book we'll have to delve deep into someday, he said that a rod of hazel was a symbol of kingship. And here we have, for the Oanacht, a fork of yew being a symbol of their kingship. I'm going to take a note here in the margin. That's important. The medieval scholars considered it necessary to give an account of the prehistory of Áine. They therefore claimed that in the time of the Tuatha De Danann, Oval and his family sought territory from Neachtan, i.e. Nuadu, and were advised to go and take the hill called Drum Colchuile. And that means the ridge of the wooded the ridge of the Hazelwood, I presume. Katrina, correct me if I'm wrong. It's actually Drum, D-R-O-M, and separate word, C-O-L-L-C-H-O-I-L-L-E. So I presume that means that the ridge of the Hazelwood. Drum Colchuile. The tribes who were then in possession of the hill gave battle to Oval and his men, and the latter were being repulsed. Then Áine promised to gain the victory for Oval on condition that her name be on the hill forever afterwards. Brilliant. This was agreed, and she scattered the foe by the force of magic and put them to flight. The hill was accordingly known as Knockainey, and it was divided into 4 parts. Unia's portion to the north, that of Far Fee to the south, Oval's portion to the west, and Áine's to the east. This, of course, is a mere rationalization and dramatization of Áine's connection with the hill. Her real history was that of a land goddess, functioning as a compound symbol of agricultural prosperity and septal sovereignty. And now, in my opinion, some of those attributes would actually make her a pre-Christian and most likely a prehistoric goddess. But there's something very interesting too about, we were talking yesterday about the role of women and how maybe the church tried to suppress that. We're not going to get into that again, but just to briefly talk about the fact that here we have, as we have in many cases, a sacred site, which is also an archaeological site with archaeological remnants on it, being named after a woman. So Tara, Chawur, which we'll get to in the Dinshanachus and the story about the lure of Tara. Talchu, which is instituted in honor of Lou's foster mother, Talchu. And several others that I can't immediately mention. But this is something that I wanted to do some writing about in a future book, was the number of sites that were where the name became sacred as the result of a female deity and a female land goddess. I don't know if that's, maybe sovereignty goddess is better. Oh, Conchuile, Hound of the Wood. No, Colchuile, Katrina, Collchchoille, Colchuile. Oh, hang on, maybe I missed a comment. Did I? Place is female. Anthony Woods is watching. Hello, Anthony. How are you? Janet Deese. I use hazelrod in my healing work. Well, there you go. And the very best wood, it would seem, for many things. Sorry, I got distracted there now. Yes, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is this division of the place into four. That's very interesting. So at some point in the not too distant future, we are going to discuss cosmology, and I don't mean the astronomical cosmology as in universe cosmology. I mean the idea of places being divided and being structured. So, for instance, here from Rees and Rees, Alwyn and Brinley Rees, Celtic Heritage, which is a brilliant book, by the way. You see that there's a map of Tara, the way it's laid out, you know, and the provinces, 4 provinces, Ulster, Leinster, Munster, and Connacht. And of course, Ishnach similarly lies at the meeting point of all the 4 provinces, and it in fact represents a 5th province. And of course, Ishnach is reputedly the place where Eru is resting or is buried, or whatever you want to say. Yet another place that's that has an important female deity attached to it. And I wonder whether Knockainey doesn't share something, you know, in those terms with Ishnach, having been divided into 4. The claim of Áine's patronage and ancestry was stressed again in a striking manner by the great Norman lords of the area at the end of the Middle Ages. Those were the Geraldines who, in the 14th century, called their first Earl of Desmond, Maurice, the King of Áine, Maurice's son, Gearóid Iarla Fitzgerald, they referred to as the son of the Cavalier of Bright Áine. So there you go, the Geraldines. And there is a connection with Louths there too. I just want to make sure I'm caught up with comments. Michael Murphy's in the house. Hi, Anthony. Hello, everyone. Giagwich, Michael, always a pleasure to have you along. Donna Jean Porter says, my ancestor, sad. Yes, I do remember researching Gearóid and reading about him. My pronunciation was terrible, though. Lucky the viewers knew what I was talking about, but I'm glad I was successful with my research. I try to be as careful as I can. And exactly what I was talking about last night, Alex. Always go back to the original sources if you can. Is it Ailil Alam or Oilil Olam? Oh, let me just go back some. Sorry, who's asking that question? Donna Jean Porter. My apologies for the momentary interruption. Well, it's Ailil, Aillill, O Fada, Olom. Well, do you want me to type that in? Type it in as a comment. What did I say? Aillill, O Fada, Lom. No, I got that wrong. It's Ailill. Oh, for Lom. There we go. And I'll type it in YouTube as well, just so people can have a look. Robert Morency says hello from Ossipee in New Hampshire. Fáilte Robert Gigrich. And Grace Walker is also in the house on YouTube. Very nice to have you along, Grace. Erica Rivertree, I use a hazel wand for blessing work, a set of Ogham in yew for divination, and saunter with a blackthorn walking stick for protection. Oh, the shillelagh. Oh, yes, blackthorn, the wood of choice for walking sticks in Ireland, traditionally. Because who wants to mess with someone wielding blackthorn? Very good point, Erica. Absolutely right. Anyway, back to the Geraldines. Garróg Iarla. Yes, Margaret Ring. Wonder what she was playing. Somebody was Yvette says bronze instrument. Yes, that is very interesting, isn't it? Of course, it doesn't say what it is. This Geraldine propaganda, that is the connection of the Desmonds, the Fitzgeralds, to Áine, is reflected in folklore that portrays Garróg Iarla as her actual offspring. Maurice, the first Earl, we are told, one day saw her bathing in Lough Gur, a short distance from Knockainey. And if you looked at today's graphic shows a picture of Lough Gur, and that's a female in the photo is to represent Áine, perhaps emerging from Lough Gur. He took her cloak, an action that magically put her in his power, and then lay with her, by which act Garróg Iarla was conceived. And that's very interesting, because cloaks are always magical devices in Irish mythology. The Faith Fiada, of course, which Manannán gave to the Dadanans, was to be used by them to make themselves invisible while they were wandering about the mortal realms. And of course, Bridget's cloak, when she asked the King of Leinster for some land to graze her cattle on, he said, "You can have whatever your cloak will cover." And she placed it on the ground, and it stretched out and covered a vast area, which is the plain of the Curragh in Kildare. This story is the result of a fusion between the Oghamacht myth of Ailill and the medieval continental legend concerning a swan maiden. Always very interesting, isn't it, about swan maidens? Is this a variation of Ashlinga Anguso, where Angus is taken by Bov Jarag to Loch Bail Dragon, the Lake of the Dragon's Mouth, where he encounters a care accompanied by thrice 50 other swans, and she's in the form of a swan. And in order to have her love, he has to take her form, and he's able to recognize her in swan form. And indeed, he does transform into a swan, and they fly back to Newgrange, where they presumably live happily ever after. As a result of this fusion, Áine was supposed in folklore to be sometimes seen bathing in that lake in the form of a mermaid, which is very interesting. Independent of the Geraldine lore, Áine survived in folk tradition as a latter-day figure of the land goddess. Now, even that statement, right, is fascinating. Áine survived in folk tradition as a latter-day figure of the land goddess. So that wasn't a contrivance. That was likely, in my opinion, to have been as a result of continuity. That association of her with the land goddess was something that had come down into the modern era all the way through time, because her story and the beliefs around her and the rituals around her had survived. She was given an aetiological role, and various large rocks at Knockainey or Knockainey Hill were said to have been placed there by her. She is popularly called Áine Chliar, Chliar, the sobriquet being explained as Clear, Clia, or a wisp. But in reality, it reflects the local pronunciation of Cliach, Cliach, the genitive of the territory's ancient name Clew, Cliu. The extended name of Knockainey in Irish is in fact Knockainey Cliach. In the 19th century, it was customary for local inhabitants to hold midsummer festivities on the hill. Again, isn't that fascinating? Bunches of straw, cleara, C-L-I-A-R-A, were lit and carried to the summit of the hill and then scattered in the cultivated fields and among the cattle to bring prosperity. Fantastic stuff. Áine was reputed to be sometimes seen on the hill on that night. She was said to be, quote, the best-hearted woman who ever lived, unquote, and a legend still current in the area tells of how she appeared in the form of a beggar woman to a local poor family. The family was kind to the old woman, and when she had left, they found a new sheep in their field. All their affairs prospered while they kept the sheep, but when they sold it, the initial poverty returned. This association with sheep could well be a distant echo of a sheep cult connected with names such as Ailil Olam and Ailil Áine. And even that's fascinating, of course, because isn't prosperity since the Neolithic attached to the possession of cattle and sheep, and the ownership of land upon which your crop would grow. Excuse me for a moment while I take something out of my mouth. So that's really interesting. And I'm tempted just to comment here about the great reputation of the Irish people for charity. That even in the worst and the poorest of times, Irish people are renowned for giving to charity and for the charity work. And here we have, that she appeared as a beggar woman to a poor family. And that she's the best-hearted woman who ever lived. The particular strength of the Áine tradition in East Limerick is due to the early appropriation of her by the Ónacht. And of course, so what you have to bear in mind here is that the kings and the septs and the tribes actually were also another altering factor in the early myths. And the O'Neill kings, of course, were apparently very famous for this, for trying to connect themselves by lineage to the ancient deities and trying to magnify their claim to land by being able to present people with these great books and saying, look, our family's pedigree goes all the way back to Áine, and giving them that sort of what would you call it? That sort of bidding, that sort of right, as it were. That Áine survived as a general designation for a goddess is clear. That Áine survived as a general designation for a goddess is clear. However, from the folklore associated with the name in widely scattered areas, at Dún Áine, Knockainey in County Louth, which was the one I mentioned early on, the weekend immediately after the Lunasa festival was regarded as sacred to her, and people refrained from going to sea for its duration. In County Derry, the parish of Lough Áine, or in anglicised to Lisson, has many associations with the same name, and it contains another hill called Knockainey. Here, she was also said to take an interest in local affairs, and we'll read that in a moment. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Right now, Marlon is asking about the book I'm reading from, The Lore of Ireland by Daithí Ó Thugáin, and there's an Amazon link to it further up in the comments if you're interested in buying yourself a copy. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Marlon O'Kiermach says, I'm a descendant of Ónacht Áine Cliach. I always wondered what the Cliach translated to. There you go. Fascinating stuff. Brilliant to be able to help you with that. Margaret, yes, Crumdove Stone there. He was her consort. He carried the ripened corn into the circle at Lunasa, so the stories go. Tressa Danley Conderla says, I'm late, but glad to be here. Fáilte, Tressa. Áine Waldron in New York is new to the group. And another Áine tonight. Lovely to have you along, Áine. The second Áine along. And I'm sure that the tribe will give you a lovely warm welcome. But Cade Mila Fáilte. Okay. I'm going to skip on back down to the end. Yeah. Laura says, hey, from Madrid, any chance you can talk about the Morrigan? Well, we did. And, you know, there's a possibility that we can go back to her because our talk of Morrigan was previously fairly well confined to her fate, her part, her role in the Battle of Moytura, Cot Moytura. So that would be episode number 20, Laura. If you want to go back to that, have a listen to that, see if it whets your appetite, if it addresses what you want. If it's not exactly what you want and you want more, then let us know. We'll do more about Morrigan. I just pasted it in there as a comment. So hello to all of the Áines in the house tonight. Where was I? Once, when a cowherd was asleep, she awakened him and informed him that the cattle had strayed into an oat field. She touched his head, leaving 5 grey finger marks on his fair hair. She was supposed to have once been an ordinary woman, but was abducted into the hill, and a local family, O'Cora or Cor, was reputedly descended from her. She was the family's banshee, and her wailing was heard as a presage of the death of members of that family. Another hill called Knockainey is in the parish of Teelin, County Donegal, and here Áine is said to have been an ordinary girl who, tired of harsh orders from her father, went into the hill long ago. She lives there in a beautiful palace and passes her time spinning the sunbeams and making gold cloth of the thread. I think that is fantastic. And I just wonder whether, this is the Teelin in County Donegal, if there's anybody on here, I think we have a couple of Donegallers in the house. Is there a Knockainey in County Donegal with maybe a cairn or a mound on it? Because I'm just wondering, is this a reference to some sort of chamber in there that receives the light of the sun at certain times of the year? Oh, of course, Margaret is saying my good wife, whose name is Anne, which is, you know, Áine, and I often call her Áine, actually. Of course, how could I possibly forget the local goddess in the house here? The one, oh my goodness me. Look at that. Can I move this, or is that going to cause a disaster? You have to see this sky out here. I'm not sure if I can do this successfully because I have 2 cameras in one. Hopefully you can see this. I'm not sure if you can. It's probably not very clear. So there's a big belly of grey cloud, and all of a sudden there's this gorgeous golden yellow orange cloud being lit up by the sun. Fantastic. Oh, I do apologize. I don't normally do wild things like that, but anyway, there you go. When one sees something extraordinary happening out one's window, one is inclined to what does one normally do? What does Anthony normally do? I'll tell you what Anthony normally does. He does this. He grabs his camera and he takes a picture. That's what he does. Sorry for that slight intermission there. Had to share that. And so for the second part of I hope everything's all right. Is everything adjusted properly? Don't adjust your TV sets, folks. Yeah, it's fabulous out there. And it's just like this little, it's quite a large curtain of golden at the very bottom of what is effectively a big sort of grey swathe of cloud over us. Wow. Anyway. So the second part of tonight's episode, I'm going to be reading from Legendary Ireland. Myths and Legends of Ireland, and that's by Ethna Massey. And this book was published in recent years by the O'Brien Press in 2017. And again, as always, what I'm trying to do is to avoid copyright issues by not reading extensive passages from books and trying to even it out, as it were, from book to book, to try and make sure that I'm quoting from multiple sources. Yeah, it's not going to be. I'd much prefer to be at Newgrange taking a picture with that sky, to be honest. And it looks like here in Ireland, they're not going to relax our restrictions for at least the next 2 weeks. That's what it's beginning to look like. We thought we might get a little relaxation of the 2-kilometer rule, but it's looking unlikely at this stage. Speaking of which, I saw the figures today. Another 31 people died in Ireland today, so there are still a lot of people dying. So it could be a while before we get out again. But sure, look, we can only do what we can do. The tiny village of Knockainey is located deep in the fertile county of Limerick, close to the great megalithic complex of Lough Gur. This is the heartland of the Lady Áine, the kindly goddess whose name originally meant brightness. In the legends, the small hill close to the village was given to her, quote, until the end of the world, unquote, and was her main residence. And Kirsten says, I think we'd all prefer to be at Newgrange. Well, I can promise you this. When the restrictions are finally lifted, I will be bringing... Now, I won't be able to do YouTube because that's done through the computer and the webcam. But I'll be bringing the phone and I'll set it up on a tripod at Sheonvru. And we'll do at least one episode there. And we'll do another one at Douth. And we'll do another one, if we can, close to Nouth. And eventually, if restrictions allow, we'll go to the Hill of Tara and we'll go to Fornox and we'll go to all sorts of places and do episodes. The small hill close to the village was given to her until the end of the world and was her main residence. The hill is not a difficult climb, but be careful to shut gates as there are animals grazing over most of it. There is a palpable sense of peace here. On the hill, Áine's ancient cairn has been destroyed, very sad. But there are still remnants of 3 small ring barrows known as Mullach an Trior, the summit of the 3. These mounds have been identified with Áine's father, Yoval, or Ogabal, her brother Ferfi, a red-haired dwarf and musician, and Áine, another mythical figure of whom little is known. Well into the 19th century, a fair was held at Knockainey at the commencement of harvest, and at midsummer it was a tradition to carry the cleara, the burning brands of hay and straw, to the top of the hill and go 3 times around the 3 mounds. The brands were then scattered in the fields and among the cattle to bring fertility for the new agricultural year. And just in the couple of minutes since I showed you that, it's actually faded quite a bit. A rule of thumb with photographers and red skies: if you see a red sky, you must photograph it very close to where you are, because you will not have the time to drive somewhere where the scenery is nicer, because it'll be gone by the time you get there. Red skies generally last, they generally last for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Now, I have seen red skies that have lasted for 3/4 of an hour as well, but most of them are very short-lived. A well on the hillside is also associated with Áine, and tradition has it that it was she who built the ancient stone bridge, now lost, over the nearby river Camogue. Áine, in her later form as Banshee, was often sighted combing her long hair beside the water of the Camogue and also at nearby Lough Gur. And that's a common theme, or it's a common image in Irish mythology, is the woman combing out her hair. And in the Dunshanicus of the Boyne, actually, there's a mention of the comb and casket of the woman, and I wonder what that's about. Travellers avoided spending a night on the shores of that lake. Pardon me. For to do so was to risk enchantment, perhaps an encounter not only with the lady of the lake herself, but also with Gearóid Iarla Fitzgerald, a historical character and a figure who, over the centuries, accrued layer after layer of folk legend. He was said to be Áine's son and a great magician who, on moonlit nights, can be seen cantering around the lake on his white horse. The lake was also believed to disappear by magic Every 7 years, here's that 7 years again, just like High Brazil appeared every 7 years, the lake was said to have disappeared every 7 years. And when that happened, the magic tree underneath the water was revealed. That's very interesting. Under the magic tree, a very old lady with long white hair was sometimes seen knitting furiously, probably another incarnation of the local goddess. A local custom, which was remembered up to the 1930s, was that of bringing the sick to the edge of the lake on the night when the moon was full. It was believed that even if the patients did not recover, Áine would come to them and play music to comfort them. There are also many legends associating the hero Fionn with the lake and with Áine. And the interesting thing there in relation to Gearóid Iarla is that, of course, Gearóid Iarla is the one who's said to be sleeping under Garrett's fort near Ardee in County Louth, about 10 miles or 12 miles northwest of us here in Drogheda. And that he is at the head of an enchanted army of warriors who are awaiting for a hero to come along and pull a sword from the wall of the cave in which they are dwelling. Does that sound a little bit like Arthurian legend and Excalibur? Well, that's because it's a very similar theme, and so there are many stories of such places that are the antiquarian accounts always say haunted. I don't believe that's a very appropriate word. It's not haunted. It is where the essence of the deities are still very much alive. That's what it is. It's not about haunting. It's about presence, isn't it? You know, it's about magical presence. Áine would come to them and play music to comfort them. There are also many legends associating the hero Fionn with the lake and with Áine. And the interesting thing there is that Gearóid Iarla and Fionn McCool are conflated in the folk accounts of Garrett's fort, because most of the accounts say that it is Gearóid Iarla who is under the fort waiting with his army, but some accounts say that Fionn McCool is under there in his castle with his enchanted army. The wealth of folklore in the Knockainey and Lough Gur area is not surprising, given the antiquity of the sites and the rich archaeological remains scattered through these quiet fields and hills. At Lough Gur, there is a whole complex of stone circles, pillar stones, ancient roadways, and cairns. Much of the site has, it sounds like a mini Brúna Bóinne or another version of Uisneach, doesn't it? Pardon me. Much of the site has been excavated and is estimated to date from the Neolithic and Bronze Age periods. There is an interpretive centre and guided walks through the site. Grange Stone Circle, the largest in Ireland, is located near the shores of Lough Gur. Not far to the west is another, quote, fairy hill, unquote, Knockfearna, home of the god Dun, Lord of the Earth. That's D-O-N-N. And I wonder, is that a conflation with or a completely separate entity to Dun of the Tuatha Dé Danann, of the Milesians, who was killed when the Milesians were trying to make land off the southwest coast, Check Din or Choc Dun. Fairy hares, H-A-R-E-S, Dun's pets, were often seen on the hill. To the north is Slieve Phelim, another legendary site. To the south, the harps of Cliu, C-L-I-U Fada, on the Galties. To the east, the fairy mountain of Slieve Naman, the mountain of the women. There is a sense of richness in these places, both in the physical sense of green life and in the emotional sense of layer upon layer of myth and history embedded in the landscape. In the village of Knockainey, a dog's bark is the only sound breaking the evening stillness. And it's very quiet here, actually. There's no traffic at all because of the lockdown. It's very quiet here in the evenings. I'm just waiting for Coda to bark there. I was just going to see if he was going to bark at that moment. It would be funny, wouldn't it? He stands at the gate to the ancient church and graveyard, daring the stranger to enter and disturb the sleeping dead. I don't know if you can hear that. That's not Coda. That's someone else's dog. Cows graze in the shadow of a ruined castle, and the doors of the houses are open, soaking in the last of the sun. I love that. The open doors of houses give a glimpse through the darkness to white painted panelling, a holy water font in the shape of the Virgin Mary, an oilcloth covering a table where pink ham and green lettuce have been laid out for tea. This is deep Ireland. And you know, it's not that long ago when people, even in urban areas like Drogheda, left their front doors open, especially during the summer and especially during the nice days, and never had a fear of anybody breaking in and stealing property or doing any damage. It's not that long. I can remember when I grew up, I mean, I'm in my mid-40s, and the street that I grew up on in Drogheda was called the Cord Road. And it was a long street of mostly red brick terraced houses. And on many summer days, a lot of the doors would be left open, or keys left indoors, or doors left ajar. Some of the old men and the older women would be out standing on their windowsills chatting to passers-by. It sounds a little bit romantic, and I suppose it is, but when we start to reminisce, we do tend to get a little bit romantic. Áine of Knockainey, the bright one, the honey mouth, the wife of the sea god, and the great sky horse Echte. She has appeared to so many, from the earliest times to the recent past. She is generous to those who serve her, but merciless to those who do not show her respect. She is the child of the sun. She is Áine of Knockainey, or Knockainey, and Lough Gur. Strange, then, that she should appear by moonlight. Ailill of Munster, king of the south, and the man who would become known as Ailill Olam, huddled in the lee of a rock. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure I'm not missing any comments. Joan Rankin says, hello everyone from Cape Breton Island. You're very welcome along, Joan. Fáilte Díogwich. Margaret says, the view from Knockainey is breathtaking. Margaret, as soon as time and restrictions or lack thereof allow, I will be hurtling down in that direction, and I need to bring my camera and probably my drone and my notebook and spend some time down there, and I really look forward to it. Aaron liked that comment. It's not about haunting, it's about magical essence. Yes, good stuff. Yes, and when it's all over, I'll bring you all on a tour. And none of you will have to pay anything. We'll all just hire a bus together and we'll go on a big tour. Huddled in the lee of the rock. He wondered how he had followed Fiarachas. Sorry. Read what's on the page, Anthony. So I'll start that paragraph again. Ailill of Munster, king of the south, and the man who would become known as Ailill Olam, huddled in the lee of a rock. He wondered how he had allowed Fiarachas to convince him to come out once again on Samhain night, the most dangerous night of the year. This was the night when all sensible people kept within doors for fear of the Sidhe. He sighed. He had no one to blame but himself, for he had been the one to go to the Leinster druid Fiarachas for advice. But he had been frightened by the great magic he had seen on the Samhain morning of the previous year. That Samhain eve, he had been out on the hill, tending his horses, and had fallen into a deep sleep. When he awoke at dawn, he found that the hill had been stripped of its grass during the night, and his horses were around him, hungry and dazed on the bare slopes. Ailill's motto was, what I have, I hold. Knockainey, for all they might call it a Sidhe residence, was within his realm, and he wanted no host of the Otherworld people denuding it of its rich grazing. So, protected by the druidic spells from sleep and from the magic mist that allowed no one to see the people of the mounds, he waited with Fiarachas to see what would happen. The moon rose, a sickle-shaped silver boat, sailing gently across the sky. Shadows formed around the rocks of the hill, and Ailill shivered. Despite the fact that this was the beginning of winter, there was a faint scent of hawthorn in the air. The two men waited. MythFlix mystery tour. Yeah. If we get the chance, we will do it, folks. And I know some of you are across the Atlantic and in other parts of the world. Let's see what we can do we'll see what we can do anyway. Okay. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Didn't mean to do that. No idea what that's. Thank you. Reversing the camera. When the moon had reached the pinnacle of her rising, music filled the air. It seemed to Ailill and Fiarachus that it came from inside the hill and grew steadily louder. The scent of hawthorn grew stronger in the darkness. And then, when there had been smooth grass, there was an opening with brightness streaming from it. Wow! A herd of cattle came forth, shining gold and silver in the moonlight, and began steadily to crop the grass of the hillside. 2 people appeared out of the hill. Dazzled by the light at first, the king and the druid could not make out who the figures were, but as they came closer, they saw that it was an old man with a grave face and a young and beautiful woman whose golden hair seemed to brighten the air around her to daylight. She was playing on the strings of a bronze tympan, and it was from this instrument that the wonderful music came. Now, a tympan, I remember thinking that a tympan might be a timpani, like a drum, but it in fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's some form of harp. I asked Morgan Daimler about this once, and she gave me the answer, which I cannot now remember. So tympan, yes, it does say a tympan, a drum, but also a metal stringed instrument of harp kind. So there you go. Yes, a sort of a harp. So we're thinking rather of a harp with strings than a big drum that she's bashing around the place. And by the way, I should mention that the younger of my 2 daughters, Tara, is a percussionist. She plays the drums. She plays drum kit and tuned percussion. She plays timpani. She plays the vibraphone and the xylophone and the glockenspiel. She can play all sorts of instruments. She can make a lot of noise. Ailill was suddenly filled with the desire for her and made towards her. Fancies the musician, does he? As she turned from him, he grasped her roughly. The old man, meanwhile, began to struggle with Ailill to pull the girl away. Fiarachus threw his spear, piercing the old man through the heart. The woman cried out and dropped her tympan, then turned savagely to Ailill, who felt as if he had been set on fire by the warm, beautiful creature in his arms. Minutes later, it was over. Ailill had, as ever, held what he had. He had violated the girl, and now she stood over him where he lay moaning. In her hands, she held 2 bloody ears. "Well, you may moan," she said, "but you who would not listen are better off without these ears to hear with." And that is a theme, isn't it, from Deirdre and the Sons of Ishnok, where nobody wanted to listen to the woman. "Know that you will be cursed for generations to come. You will lose your kingdom and your honor. Your foul mouth will become poisonous through your own fault, and never again will you hear the sweet sound of music. Know that you will be called Ailill Olum, Ailill of the bald ears, from now on, and men will mock you and women laugh behind their hands when you pass. Know that you will know neither rest nor pleasure again." Ailill feebly raised his spear. Well, what else did he deserve? And he deserves a lot more besides for his rotten behaviour. Ailill feebly raised his spear, trying to drive it through the woman's heart. But she laughed and drew herself up to her full height, so that she seemed no longer a young girl, but a woman in the glory of her maturity. "Do you think that you can stop me from rising every morning? Do you not know that every day I arise, new made, from my bed in the Sea King's kingdom? And although I seem to weaken with winter, do you not know that I rise from my cradle in the earth like the yellow corn every summer? You stupid mortal, do you still not know who I am?" Behind her, the sky lightened. Interesting. And the first birds began their song. By the way, I was awake this morning at 4:30 a.m. when the very first of the birds began their dawn chorus. Though it was the first day of the harsh winter, though the lady was pale and her face as cold as November ice, Eileal could be in no doubt, as the light flowed in from her and encircled her head in a nimbus of glory. He was looking at the great lady Áine, goddess of the green hill and of the brightness of the sun. Don't mess with the women. There you go. Who are we? Josephine Ruth Weatherford. I will be moving to Ireland soon to do a postgraduate programme at UCD in Irish folklore and ethnology. Count me in to any adventures to sacred spots. I noticed the first book you were reading is by Daithí Ó Hógáin, who is associated with that programme in folklore at UCD. Daithí Ó Hógáin, the late great Daithí Ó Hógáin, was a fabulous scholar, and we're greatly indebted to him for leaving behind such a wonderful body of work. Move Anyway says, you're a lot perkier than me after an early start, Anthony. Yeah, I know. I didn't get a wild lot of sleep last night. But anyway, I'm okay now. That's the main thing. Listen up or off with your ears, says Aaron Pixie Cusick. Yes, exactly. Yes, yay, or Anthony. Áine has you intrigued. She certainly has, Margaret. Absolutely. I've been really, really enjoying that tonight. And I'm glad to see in one of the stories, a woman who is exacting revenge for, I know, revenge and anger and all that. We could do it less of that in the world, I know, but for that dreadful behaviour on the part of Eileal, and didn't he deserve it, Of course, I wonder, did she pull out his eardrums as well? Because pulling off his earlobes isn't enough to make him stop hearing. Any questions or comments? Oh, doesn't time fly? I can't believe that that's been an hour, really and truly. More than an hour, actually. Actually, I'm just wondering very briefly. Probably wouldn't do any harm just to have a quick look at McKillop, just to see if there's anything there that Daithí didn't have. I doubt it very much, because Daithí's article is very comprehensive. Pardon me. In the north of Ireland, I need my reading glasses for this. You're getting old when you need to put your glasses on to read. In the north of Ireland, Áine was thought to be a mortal woman who was spirited away at night from her husband's side. In the south, she was thought to have a neighbour named Grian, a goddess who dwelt at Knockainey, a hill about 7 miles distant from Knockainey. And I wonder, folks, Margaret, here, you're the one to ask. Do you know of Knockainey in proximity to Knockainey? And I'm just wondering whether Knockainey isn't in fact the moon and Knockainey is representing the sun, and that they're aligned in some way for a particular solstice or a particular time of the year, Samhain, perhaps, sunrise or sunset, She is also linked to Knockainey and to the well Tubber Áine near Lisson in County Derry and Knockainey near Aughar in County Waterford. As Grian is also descended from Fer E or Yoval, some commentators believe she is the same figure as Áine under a different name. Áine is often thought to be a counterpart of both Eibel and Clina. And there's a separate Áine, so we'll give her a brief mention as well. This is Áine number 2. This lover of the Fenian cycle may be a different character, or she may be Áine of Knockainey with a different genealogy. Her father is either Cullen the Smith, that is, the smith whose hound Cuchulainn Setanta kills to become Cuchulainn, or a king of Scotland. In some versions, she would sleep with no man but Fionn, who wooed and won her, giving her 2 sons. In another version, Áine and a sister, Miluchra, Milucra, and I wonder is that any connection to that Miluchra, the Slea Miluchra, one of the great roads leading from Tara. Both loved Fionn, but neither could have him. Miluchra transformed Fionn into an old man, but Áine gave him a potion that restored his youth. Despite this kindness, Fionn would not marry Áine. Wow, remarkable stuff. So it's always worth digging down and down and down. Now, tomorrow night I'm going to do something. I think I'm going to do something different in relation to a new arrival to the library today, which I haven't mentioned, and I'm not going to mention tonight because I'm going to keep it as a surprise. And hopefully we might be able to dig further down into the story of the various Knockainnies tomorrow night. Laura O'Reilly says, very interesting as always. Gura Mahagut. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Laura, and I hope it was of some use to you guys. And I know I'm reading rather than, I sometimes when I'm not too au fait with the material, I have to read. Sometimes when I'm very familiar with material, I do less reading and more just straight talking, you know. Grace Walker, yes, I would be honoured too. Mandy McCurl, welcome. Hope you will be with us tomorrow. Brilliant, Grace. That would be great if we could see you tomorrow. That's Grace Walker, who had her first live Irish Myths tonight, and you have 48 episodes to catch up on at your leisure, and that's why we call it MythFlix. So you can binge watch, get the popcorn out, you know, brew a pot of tea or grab a slab of cans, whatever your thing is, you know, and watch the rest of the episodes. John Main had to depart early and said we'll catch up later. Good luck, John, and good night and Boherlat. Not sure I'm missing much else. Great stuff. My cousin Áine Waldron tuned in from the Bronx for the first time, says Ralph Waldron. Brilliant stuff. Fáilte Áine. And hopefully we will see you again on Live Irish Myths. You're very, very welcome along. Jim Conway says Milukra is the goddess of Sliabh Gullion. Is that right? Not the Cailleach, not Evelyn or Garavogue. That's very interesting. Let's just briefly go on a tangent there. Let's look to see if Milukra is mentioned in either MacKillop or O'Hogan. No. Not in... Oh, hang on. Yeah, in case it's spelt differently. Mio is like M-I-O-D-H, isn't it? No, it's not there. Let's just check anyway, Jim. We will check O'Hogan, see if there's anything on Milukra in O'Hogan. But I'd love to hear more about that, Jim. And if you have any information, please feel free to contact me afterwards by private message on Facebook or on email, mythicalireland@gmail.com. I'd love to hear more. Of course, this is all material for more episodes down the line. No, nothing there either. So I'll come back to that one, Jim, but thank you for letting me know that. Bus trip to Lough Gur, yes, and Lough Gerrig, says Saibi. Absolutely, that's it. Looking forward to the surprise show tomorrow, Anthony. It's not that surprising. Oh, Henry is reminding me about Bealtaine. Yes, that's coming up very soon. That'll be this week. And also, don't forget, we're doing an episode about Ishnok in the coming week, and hopefully Eru as well. So lots of great stuff to come. No, there's a nice one associated with, as I say, the new arrival to the library that could be potentially interesting. So I'll do a little bit of research on it tomorrow, and I'll make a decision tomorrow morning whether it's worth an episode or whether it's maybe just worth investigating as part of an episode. Manannán Mac Lir built roads to Limerick and Waterford, connected to Áine, says Margaret. Yeah, said to be her father, wasn't it, in some accounts? Brilliant. Come back. This is the best Tua, says Desiree. Wonderful story. Thank you, Grace Walker. Oh, Grace, you're on Facebook and YouTube. Brilliant stuff. You must be watching on two screens. Great. Jim Conway says, Manannán Mac Lir's druid, Furfey, appears in a lot of these mythology. He has a magic harp in the great betrayer myth of the Ban River and Lough Neagh, where Tuig is drowned, which represents the sun being drowned. That's very interesting, Jim. Again, please feel free to pass on any information that you have, because that's something that we could definitely cover in a future episode. Henry says, are you sky watching tonight? I don't think so, Henry, because it's completely overcast and apparently there's rain on the way. In fact, I'm just going to look at the rainfall radar on met.ie. Yeah, it's actually very close. It's not far off now. So
I won't be doing any sky watching tonight unless I'm watching the raindrops. Maureen O'Leary is here. I didn't know you were here, Maureen. This mortal knows who she is. Maureen, you're very welcome along. And I was talking to you about Scota, which we will be getting around to. That was one that I just have to do research on and take notes on. And I just need a bit of time to do that. But I'm glad that you have patience with me. Look us up when you are here, says Paul Gowron. She is strong, says Margaret Ring. She is indeed. So a number of people are saying they had trouble sleeping last night. So obviously I wasn't the only one. So there you go. And I usually sleep very well, in fairness. And I sleep particularly well after finishing live myths with you guys. So I have very little left to say, except for to say thank you for coming along. It's always a great joy to have you. The interaction is lovely. The newcomers are feeling very welcome, and they're coming back again, which is brilliant. And the regulars seem to be still coming in their droves. So we're obviously doing something right. Tomorrow is episode Iver Aquega. Tomorrow, believe it or believe it not, is episode number 50. And I find that extraordinary that that will be day 50 of continuous everyday episodes. And it's been wonderful that we've been able to do it this long. I never thought that we'd be able to do it this long, not for want of material, but just with the way things are. It's a little bit easier for me to do them because I'm working from home and I'm not commuting and I'm not engaged in other activities such as music, which I would normally be engaged with. And so I have more time in the evening to do these. I would never be able to have done live Irish myths without the COVID-19 restrictions. So silver linings and all that. That's all I can say. Nick says you're doing fantastic. And thanks, Nick. It's lovely to hear all those nice comments, you know. Muvanwe says, I'm hooked now, Anthony, and telling everyone about it. Brilliant stuff. And hopefully I have the pronunciation of your name correct now. And it's always nice to have the repeat viewers on. It's always nice to see those names coming up. Josephine says, the story with Fionn and Áine when she turns his hair grey, does anyone know where that story comes from? As far as the original translation, was it in the Tales of the Elders of Ireland? That's a very interesting question. And I can't answer it immediately offhand, but it is something I will have a look at. And I have indeed. You're going to see the whole library before I do the next part of the... I still have to get back to doing the library tour. I have the English translation of the Tales of the Elders of Ireland, which is an Oxford World Classic. But I also have the Irish, Agalo na Seanorach, which is completely in Oscailge, which is completely in Irish. And it's lovely, even though I don't understand a great deal of the words. And I am learning. Thanks to Katrina, I'm trying to relearn Irish and refamiliarize myself. It is lovely to be able to read the original Irish, and you know, even if you can't understand it all, to even get a little bit of a sense of it, and to see familiar names in it, you know, and familiar place names is always wonderful. So there you go. I will maybe, if I get a chance, Josephine, maybe also you might. Send me on an email and just give me a little nudge tomorrow morning to see if I can find out any information about where that story comes from, because I'm actually interested in finding out myself. Paul Garron says, good night. Margaret Ring says, it's like coming home to our tribe, Artua. Indeed, Margaret, and it's lovely. Carol Barrett says, thanks a million. Really enjoyed this every evening. Really enjoying this every evening. Thanks, Carol. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow evening. Slán go fóill. Yvette Tillema, such a great question. Grazie mille, Anthony, for all your work and for entertaining us for so long, says Federica. Ciao, Federica, and stay safe and stay well. Kirsten Salisbury says, thank you, Anthony. I loved hearing stories of Áine, as did I, because I wasn't entirely familiar with all her stories. Muvanwe says, pronunciation nearly perfect. Here's the male voice choir version for practice. There's a tune called Muvanwe. I believe I played it once. I play euphonium in the brass band, and I believe that there's a version of that song or tune for euphonium solo and brass band. There you go. I love how you have sectioned off your books so you know where to find them. Do you know what? they're not actually arranged. I was saying this. Okay, a lot of the older and more valuable ones are there, but they're not all there. And there's a certain arrangement here. But actually, a lot of the rest of them are just where I could fit them. They're put where I could fit them. And over time, you just get used to going back to them. Now, as you saw, was it last night or the night before, the story or the book about the 40 motifs of Newgrange I couldn't find for ages because I hadn't read it in ages. So there you go. Michael Murphy says, "You've lit a fire in my soul, Anthony, longing for knowledge of the homeland." Lovely stuff, Michael. Don't forget that there's a great deal of material available online. Now, if you're wary of the provenance of that material and you're worried that perhaps it might be fake news, as it were, that it might be somebody who is embellishing the stories, just reach out to me on email and ask me. There's a great deal of what we've dealt with. I believe that the Dictionary of Celtic Mythology is available on the Oxford website and is searchable. And I think all you have to do is register. The Lough Gur, which we dealt with in the last couple of episodes, is available entirely as an electronic file. There are some brilliant university websites in Ireland, the Celt Project at UCC, there's the Script on Screen at Dublin Institute of Advanced Studies and the Royal Irish Academy. A lot of the scripts are on screen. A great deal of the translated works are available. The earlier books from which I've been reading, the ones that are out of copyright, are generally available on the likes of archive.org and sacredtext.org, etc., etc. And in some cases, for instance, you can download PDF copies, which are facsimile copies of the likes of the Dinchanicus. There's a lot of stuff there that you can have on your computer that you can print off or you can read on screen. I personally prefer the physical book, which is why I have so many behind me. But if you're interested in learning the stories, there are so many resources. That's something I must put together actually for the group. Perhaps as a page on the website is a page of resources pertaining to folklore, mythology, legend, place names, etc., etc. And of course, it links to the various sources. But Michael, do feel free to reach out to me on email. Josephine says, "Thank you. I read the book in English recently and I couldn't remember where I found it. I will." Brilliant stuff. Maeve Fianna Callan. Gurama Gut Anthony, delighted as always. Ihawa Tua. And the same to you, Maeve. Stay safe and we'll see you tomorrow. Jules Cousins says, "The Good Fire." Desiree, Anthony's dedication is amazing. He's brought us all together and his family has been so kind to share him. Much love to Yeah, and I'm very grateful to them. They've been very patient. Well, in the case of the kids, basically since they were all born, because from my eldest was from the moment she was born, I was at all this. They've gotten used to me, but at the same time, I'm grateful to them. Margaret Ring says, "Night, everyone. Ichawa, Margaret, and see you tomorrow." Mov, so mov as in dove, Movanwe. Grace Walker said, "Thank you." Sloan, even Grace, thank you. Good night, everyone. Mariana Dunn, you're a splendid group of people. Grateful to have found Anthony and the MythFlix too. Well, it's the group that makes it, isn't it? Otherwise, I'd be talking to myself and it wouldn't be very interesting. Natalia Lopez, and that's nice of you to say, Mariana, so keep coming back. Natalia Lopez, taking notes on this online material to start reading. Natalia says, "I can't find much in my country." Yeah, we're lucky we have such a huge treasure, you know. It's great to have a little bit of home here with me in my adopted city of Madrid, says Laura O'Reilly. "Couldn't get home this March for my birthday because of the lockdown. Makes this COVID-19 easier. Ihawa, Culla Sov, Laura, and Slán go Fóill." Yvette says, "As a total hack, I read with McKillop's dictionary in my other hand." Brilliant. "A page of resources would be fantastic," says Movanwe. Well, that's something I will definitely get around to. Yes, a few people's agreeing that would be a great idea. Anyway, in the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Keep washing your hands. Keep up the social distancing. Keep up the cocooning, whatever you need to do. Do your thing to stop this in its tracks. Come back to us again tomorrow evening, same time, 8 p.m. for episode 50 of Live Irish Myths. In the meantime, have a good night's sleep. Culla Sov and Slán go Fóill. And same to yourselves, YouTubers. Slán go Fóill.